Hey everyone, welcome to Make It Known with Mal. I'm your host Mal, and today I have a very special guest, as always. His name is Luke, and he's actually running for Congress. So this is super cool. And he actually reached out to me, so I feel very honored. And so we're just gonna chat. As you can see, he's very young as well. So like that, we're gonna talk about that a little bit. Anyway, we're just gonna go ahead and start. Luke, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, Mal. Yeah, absolutely. So we connected on Instagram. I saw some shared interest there, saw that you're a podcaster. I love building up the network with people, and especially with people who are willing to have conversations about modern topics. But then we also talked a little bit just before we went on the air about advice and sharing thoughts with specifically other young people. Of course, for all people, but I think as you and I are in the younger generation of leaders and influencers, it's really valuable to reach out to those people within our own demographic. So that really comes back to a little bit about me. Is my passion is to talk to young individuals, young leaders, and encourage young individuals to become young leaders. And being a leader is an intentionally ambiguous term, because you can be a leader in sports or in politics or in your social structure or your church. And the bottom line is, I want young people to be empowered and active in what it is that they are passionate about. So that's one of the big purposes behind why I do what I do, is I want other people to see that they can be effective in the field that they care about. They can get out there, take a stance, even if it's daring, even if it's something that's hard, you can do it, and it's worth doing it, because I believe that every life has a purpose, and too many of us turn a blind eye to our purpose in order to be safe and in order to kind of live a very easy lifestyle. I don't think that's what we're all meant to do. I think sometimes our purpose is very difficult. So yeah, I'm 27 years old, Republican nominee for PA 18. I am going on 4 years with the United States Air Force. Now I'm on guard status, so I'm able to run for politics. Grove City College graduate, spent years in the private sector, and, grew up alongside you guys, experiencing all the crazy life stories that someday we're going to be able to tell our grandkids about. 9/11, the 2008 stock market crash, COVID-19, the corresponding stock market crash, wars here, there, and everywhere, different presidents on both sides of the aisle, Trump, Obama, both very controversial figures. I mean, we've been through a lot. So that's just a little bit about me and why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so next question is, let's see. I'm trying to decide which one to do next.
Sometimes it's hard, but let's do as many as we can. Hey,
yeah. I'm trying. So to those, actually, no. What made you decide to run?
What made me decide to run in a long-term sense is that I've always cared about politics. Actually, I mentioned 9/11. I was 8 years old when 9/11 happened in 2001. And that was my line in the sand, where I stopped being just a child and started being a child who was aware of global issues and national issues. Before that, I was 8 years old, and I cared about dinosaurs and playing outside and things like that. I still think dinosaurs are awesome. But that's all I cared about. I didn't know. I wouldn't have even been able to tell you about different political parties at 8 years old. And then 9/11 happened, and I realized these things matter. And so I started getting involved in that. And I also realized that was my skill set. My skill set is communications and bringing people together. And that is something that I enjoyed and I was good at. So I studied it in college then. I studied political science, national security, and communications. And then after that, I had interned with local borough governments, with grassroots organizations, with political movements and campaigns. And I decided, in a more modern sense, I looked at people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who entered office at the age of 28. And I would find myself disagreeing with her and complaining about her around the kitchen table. My friends and family would sit down and I'd say, did you hear this crazy thing that Alexandria said or did? She doesn't know American history. She doesn't know what she stands for. She just, and I'd complain about her. And then I'd say, wait a second, Luke, she entered office at your age. What are you doing about it? You can dislike her all you want, but sitting around complaining about it is not going to solve anything. So somehow she made her impact. what am I doing to make my impact? So that's kind of the historical answer through when I was 8 years old. And then in a modern sense, seeing other young leaders, Alexandria, Greta Thunberg, Ilhan Omar, all young people, Dan Crenshaw, also a young veteran. So that's why I am where I am.
Wow, that's great. And I love you saw a problem and you wanted to solve it. The last couple of guests I have been interviewing have all said something like that. And I want everybody listening just to hear that. If you see a problem, you know, it's cool to talk about it. And yeah, you should discuss it because that's how you're going to find solutions. But if you see a problem, there also has to be action that should be taken. Yeah. And if you see a problem, try to solve it. If you don't know how to solve
100%.
it, figure out with someone else, discuss things, like have these type of conversations. But if you see a problem, try to solve it. That's good.
Yes.
So the next question is, what do you say to someone and they say, oh, you're young, you're inexperienced, you're childish. We need career politicians. We need people who've been there for 30 plus years or since 1995. Like I said, I did some research. What do you say to people who say that to you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a few questions. First of all, question number one is, if this person has been there for decades on end and they're still complaining about the problems in modern America, then aren't the modern problems their fault? Because they've been there for the history of it happening, right?
Yeah.
So we look at someone like the Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden's, my opponent, Mike Doyle. They've been there for decades. And now they're saying, oh, all these problems are here. And you're saying, wait, you've been here in Joe Biden's case in public office for 50 years. 50 years, what did you do with your time there? And then beyond that, I'd say from you're too young perspective, a few things. Number one is that at the age of 17 with a parental signature, our fellow brothers and sisters in America are allowed to go fight and die for our country. So you know, I don't accept this premise that you're too young to be a leader at the age of 27 if we're allowing 17-year-olds to go fight our battles for us. So, and then beyond that, I think that historically, America has made it very clear that we prioritize and we value young leadership. The age to run for Congress is actually significantly younger than me. It's 25. So why is that? Why is that federal law? It's because our lawmakers have always recognized that if you are a young person who is hardworking enough and organized enough to make this happen as a candidate, you're the type of person that we want. And I think that even more so today, when we see that young people who grew up with you and me, they have gone through some of those things I listed when we first got here. We went through 9/11. We went through this multiple stock market crashes. We understand what your average Joe Schmo goes through today. And these elitist politicians on both sides of the aisle who have been there for decades, how can they hope to know what a working class individual goes through when they've been making almost $200,000 a year off of taxpayer dollars for the last 20 years? That you don't know me. You don't know what I've gone through. You don't know my neighbors. So that's kind of my answer to that one.
Oh, loved it. And everything you said, completely agree. So true. So what are two of the most important issues you think, well, you can name three if you want, but let's probably do two for right now. Most important issues that you think we are facing currently, and then two solutions.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. Let's go with number one, I would say, is more of a conduct issue than a policy issue. And it's that I think our elected representatives, specifically local reps, so you've got mayors, Senate, and U.S. House members, Congress members, they don't prioritize building relationships with their community anymore. What you see is that they get elected, they start making that $200K a year, they start taking trips down to D.C. and staying in 5-star hotels, and they forget about the people. And I mean, how cool would it be if you had a representative in your district who's supposed to represent literally your neighborhood, who came back and said, hey guys, today on Facebook Live, on Instagram Live, whatever, in a public speech, I'm going to tell you what bills are up for being voted on, and I'm going to tell you how it's going to affect you, my district, who I'm supposed to represent, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to vote the way I'm going to vote so that you can hold me accountable. That's what your local representative is supposed to do, to keep you in the loop, because they're supposed to know you and your community. That's not what we see happening anymore. Right now, the U.S. House used to be called the People's House because it was like your closest representative possible on a federal level could take your issues before the federal level legislature. That's what it was meant to be. Now it's a bunch of old rich white guys who don't know us anymore. I mean, I think that's a big problem. So that's number one, it's the conduct. I think you need to be willing to build that relationship. Someone on the left who does this very actively is AOC. She hops on IG Live and she talks to her supporters. I don't like her, but she does that well. Someone on the right who does this is Dan Crenshaw. He'll literally walk out of the voting chambers, hop on Facebook Live and say, hey guys, just voted. Here's how I voted. I want you all to know what I'm up to. That's awesome. That is so cool. So I think we need more of that. The other one I'd say is abortion. I think, in my opinion,
I like that answer.
Abortion is the single darkest mark on American history, comparable only to American slavery. And ironically, abortion and slavery both targeted minority communities. Mm-hmm. We don't like to talk about this anymore, but abortion was started as attempted Black genocide. Yeah. I think that's terrible. I think it's given a pass today. And somehow this marketing campaign has convinced us that it's okay and that that history, that doesn't matter anymore. No, it absolutely matters. And so I think it's an evil that our country has, at least half of our country has allowed to happen, and the other half is trying to fight against, but I think that the fight needs to be taken more seriously, especially by our lawmakers.
Yeah, no, I agree, especially.
Well, the first thing you said is a very good point. That hasn't really crossed my mind, but that's a very, very good point. And the second thing, I totally agree that it hasn't. I feel like people are taking it more seriously now because our generation is taking it more seriously because I feel like we're more affected by it. And you can see in the culture how it's a cultural thing. And like, you're not a girl, but they do really good girly marketing. Like all their stuff is pink. So, I mean, if you go to their it's super like trendy and
it looks nice. It looks empowering, right? Welcoming.
Yeah. And they do that on purpose. And I think as, conservatives and as Republicans, we need to do things that are also affecting the culture. I know a lot of people don't want to. So to your point with what AOC and Dan Crenshaw does, I think a lot of the older people who've been in Congress are like, oh, I shouldn't have to do that. People should trust me. But like, that's just, sometimes you have to change with the times. Like we are all on social media. I spend way too much time on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, and if you're on Instagram, if you want to get people to hear your message, Instagram is where you need to go. Like you need to be more, people just need to be more involved, and like they just have to change with the times. Now, when we're old and I don't know what'll be next, maybe like some sort of like screen or something that comes out of your eyes. I don't know, but like you just have to go with the times. And
exactly, I couldn't agree. That's the thing is like, look, if you are an older representative and you have evolved with the times, more power to you. I give 2 thumbs up. But if you're an older representative who has refused to evolve with the times, then it's time for you to step aside and let someone who knows the world as it is today to come in and make laws about this modern world.
Right. Because,
another thing I just thought of, people they're voting on laws of stuff such as like TikTok and Instagram, and they don't my mom
don't understand it.
Yeah, my mom has asked me like 3 times what is TikTok this past like 3 weeks. So like people who are like, how can you make decisions? You don't even know what it is.
Yes. Yeah. You're speaking my language. This is one of the things I tell people. This would be like someone who doesn't understand automobiles making laws about cars. So, and we saw this actually on public example when Mark Zuckerberg had a congressional hearing. We had congressional reps asking him questions like, so how do you make your revenue on Facebook if it's a free platform? And he's like, Representative, we run ads, and people pay for the ads because the traffic is so high. That's how we make our revenue. They don't understand the world they live in, and yet they want to make laws for you and me to live by. That's outrageous.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. We just stumbled upon something right there. Okay. So why do you consider yourself a Republican?
Yeah. Well, so I would qualify this first by saying I really consider myself a conservative with some libertarian ideas who is Republican by default because we live in a two-party system. I'm actually not a very big fan of the two-party system.
Yeah.
I think it would be cool to have 3 or 4 competing parties, because on the left we see just the classification D, right, for Democrat. But really there's actually a range. There's a disparity between AOC and someone like FDR, right? Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 2 very different versions of Democrat. JFK, very different than Barack Obama. And then on the right, there's also a disparity. There are differences between, Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. They're not the same. We put them in the same box, but they're not the same. So I think that that's why I'm Republican, is because it's really more about what I'm not. I'm certainly not a Marxist. I'm certainly not a progressive liberal, which is what we see the Democrats swinging towards. And so the Republicans are the only other viable party who at least partially stand for liberty and justice. And I say partially because I think some Republicans are sellouts too. I think we have elitist Republicans who went to DC and forgot their people, just like the Democrats did.
Yeah. And I like that you are saying that, like, holding other people accountable, because I think we've become so partisan and so much into like people as opposed to caring about policies and about like the actually serving, because when you are a politician, you are a servant. Like you're there for us. Like we should be telling you what to do. And I think people get so caught up now in like names and like letters and stuff like that. So I liked everything you said.
Awesome. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Why are you a proud American? Or are you a proud American? That's the first question.
I am.
Okay.
I was a very proud American. And here's why. Because America is, like the rest of us individuals and the rest of the countries of the world, it is imperfect. But what sets it apart? It's not, I think some conservatives get this wrong. What sets us apart is not that we're perfect, because we're not. What sets us apart is that we have always historically been willing to fight for actual justice and to fight the imperfection in our system. So we see an imperfection and we say, what can we do about it? One of the big examples I like to give is, look, I've got mixed ethnic heritage. I'm white, Hispanic, and black. My family would not exist if we were to hold to racial lines, right? If whites only married whites and blacks only married blacks and so on, I wouldn't be here. So when I look at our history, I see a country that was part of an evil practice in the past, which most first world countries were back then, in slavery. And yet that imperfection was corrected. How? By the elite ruling class rising up and physically fighting their fellow elite ruling class. No other country did that. So you had elitists in power white people rising up and fighting other elitist in power white people because they said, this is wrong. We have to reject this. So does that make all of the past sins okay? No, it doesn't. But it does show you something about the character of the true Americans in the group who said, we need to actually believe what we preach, which is that all men are created equal. That's what our country says, and we're going to sacrifice whatever is necessary, including our lives, to attain that. And then you see that on a global sense, right? With World War I and World War II, where again, outside of our own country, we said, we see these things happening, and we are going to sacrifice immensely to right the ship and to do things that no other country has done. And then if you go from a less moral perspective, technologically speaking, I mean, name pretty much every major technological breakthrough that we enjoy today, television, radio, air travel, all came from the US. And then lastly, I'd say, in a very current modern sense, Americans give more per capita to global charity than any other country on the face of the earth. That says volumes about our culture. And I think we forget those things too often.
Yeah. Great answer. Okay. So last question before your make it known statement. Any advice or tips? You talked a little bit about leadership earlier. So any advice or tips about for those who are young that are interested in running for office or who want to be better leaders, or also, so second, two-part question. And then any books or podcasts you listen to that would be really good for someone who wants to become a better leader.
Ooh, that's really good. Okay, so I might have to ask you to remind me on the second part there.
Okay. Yeah, I just made it up. I'll write it down.
I love it. I love it. The first part there, build a well-rounded resume. So one of the authors of a comic, I believe it's the writer of the comic, Ziegler or something like that. He speaks about a well-balanced resume, and it's this idea of be someone who is versatile and who can make themselves marketable in very diverse fields. So if you're in a room, you don't always have to be the smartest person in the room. Make yourself in the top 70%. You're smarter than 70% of the people in the room. You're better read. If you're in a room, try to be more charismatic than 80% of the people in the room. It's okay if there's a guy who outperforms you. When you go to a party, try to be more kind and more outgoing than 90% of the people. There might be someone who outperforms you, but put all these things together to build a balanced resume so that when they all get joined together, all of a sudden you're outperforming everybody, because that guy's smarter than you, but he's not as funny as you. And that guy's funnier than you, but he's not as outgoing as you. And you start balancing these together, and they say, like, who's the go-to girl? Who's the go-to guy? It's that guy. I want to work with him because he knows what he's doing. She knows what she's doing in this and this and this. So build your resume. And then on top of that, maybe even more importantly, build your network and recognize that you are powerful because you touch lives. Every person who touches lives and who has a network, which is all of us, is so powerful because your expertise combined with other people is what enables you. I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't be where I am now without other people who gave me advice, who gave me their time, who gave me their money, who gave me their guidance through processes that I had no idea about. So build that network and build your own personal resume, well-rounded, and don't sweat it. If someone outperforms you in something, someone's faster than you, be stronger than you. Be stronger than them. If someone's stronger than you, be smarter than them. Just balance it out. And then advice, so things I listen to, number one, I try to keep my news balanced. So I try to, if I hear a story on Fox, I listen to what NPR and CNN are saying about it, because then at least I might not agree with them, but at least I see what the other side thinks. And then also I do like listening to podcasts that are very open-minded in the sense that they let anyone speak. So someone who does this that is very popular is Joe Rogan. He'll have Bernie Sanders on, right? Like Bernie's there, and then you've got Ben Shapiro there. They couldn't be more different, but he welcomes them both on and lets them talk. That's awesome. And if you know who you are, you don't have to be afraid of other opinions. You don't have to be afraid of letting someone else talk. So he does that. And then in a more political sense, there's a podcast on YouTube called Exploring Minds, which focuses on policy. And really any political podcast, I think, is worth at least investing in, as long as you keep it balanced and you keep your mind open to the facts, and you fact check people, fact check yourself, and fact check other people who you hear talking about any topic. So yeah, that would be my answer there.
Yeah, that was good.
So sorry, I just thought of one last question before you make a note statement.
No, you're good.
How do you stay motivated? Like, what keeps you motivated to keep going? Because I'm sure this is so stressful. Yeah. It's your first time, right? It's your first time running? Yeah, so I'm sure I can't even imagine. So what keeps you motivated?
What keeps me motivated is knowing why I'm doing what I'm doing, knowing my own importance, and that own importance doesn't come from an inflated sense of importance, but it also doesn't come from a deflated sense of importance. I have to know that the world doesn't revolve around me. Without me, the world will keep spinning, but also every life is valuable and every life is irreplaceable. And like I said at the beginning of this, I believe every life has a God-given purpose. So I have a purpose, I have an importance, but at the same time, I'm not more valuable than anybody else. Keeping that balance, and then sharing that balance with other people, and seeing people be hurt by lies. It really motivates me, because I see people who I care about, I see people who I don't know, and I see them buying into lies and half-truths that they're told. I see them being put in boxes. You're a gay guy, you're a straight guy, you're a white guy, you're a black guy. And I see these types of injustices, and it bothers me and it makes me want to make a difference. And then the last part that motivates me is knowing that life is short, and that the worst thing that I think I could do is to waste my life. Not to try and fail. Trying and failing is fine, but wasting your life, that's not fine. Not fine by me.
Yeah, wow, that was good. Okay, so last question. If the whole world was listening to you right now, and you could tell them one thing that's like super important, what would it be?
You have value. You are created in the image of God, and every human, including yourself, has equal value. And because of that, every human has not only a right, but also a duty to pursue their purpose, because your purpose is irreplaceable. No one's ever going to be able to fulfill exactly the purpose that you can fulfill in your life. And there is kind of the saying that people who have the ability to take action have the responsibility to take action. I believe that's every single one of us. So if you're given an ability to influence a friend for the better, or an ability to pass a bill for the better, or an ability to help a homeless guy, then you also have the responsibility to do that, because you're the one in that situation. It's not some guy down the road. It's not your mom. It's you who's there. You who have the ability to do it. So you're valuable. Other people are valuable, and you need to be willing to take action, even when it's hard.
Wow, that was good. I'm probably going to make that a tiny, you know how Joe Rogan does those clips? I started doing that. So that's probably going to be one. I'll send it to you. That was good. Okay, well, thank you so much. Oh, actually, before that, tell us how people can connect with you. And then also, too, if you need volunteers, tell us how they can do that. And then I'll have that linked in the bio and description and everything as well when I post this.
Awesome. Yeah, so you can catch my website at negron2020.com, Negron, that's my last name, 2020.com. And on there will be links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. My Instagram is Negron for Congress. That's how we connected. And you can shoot me a DM there, or you can shoot me an email through the website contact form. And we're always looking for volunteers. Even people outside of Pennsylvania can help us. We've got a few different routes that we can get in contact about.
Okay, well, that's great. Thank you so much for this. I really enjoyed this. I hope everyone listening enjoyed this. I learned some stuff, and good luck. I definitely will be praying for you.
Thank you.
I hope you got this.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening, and catch you again on Monday. Bye. Thank you for listening to Make It Known with Mal. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new. Make It Known with Mal is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, Overcast, PocketCasts, RadioPublic, and iHeartRadio. So if this was a beneficial episode for you, wherever you're listening, make sure you subscribe, rate, review, and share with your friends. If you take a picture listening, make sure you tag Make It Known with Mal on Instagram, and I'll repost it. I'm currently accepting applications for sponsors. Also, if you're receiving value from this podcast, please consider becoming a Patreon for as low as $3 a month. Find out more on my website, www.makeithknownwithmal.com. You can also find merch and a list of all the freebies that are available. Thanks again for listening, and have a good rest of your day. Also, ask yourself, if the whole world was listening, what would you say? Don't forget to make it known.